Welcome back, Mzansi, to African farming. Now, despite all our accomplishments and claims of sophistication, we humans owe our very existence to a 6-inch layer of topsoil and the fact that it also rains. But of all the variables in farming, the weather is perhaps the hardest to predict, as farmer Tony Ndoro experienced firsthand. Now, after visiting his operation, it's now time to ask our experts about dealing with unexpected high rainfall or other similar weather events. Joining us in studio are Praveen Dwarika from Lemang. Praveen, good to have you with us.
Good to be here, thank you.
We've also got Nico Groenewald from Standard Bank. Nico, you well?
Thanks, good to be here.
Fantastic. Dr. Baty Dungu from Afrivet, Doc.
Morning, thank you for having me here.
Fantastic. Steyl also joins us from Bonsmara, SA, on behalf of Vleissentraal. I got that right.
Thank you very much, Tony. Nice to be here.
Good to have you, Louis. Let me start with you on the far side there, Praveen, and talk about the fact that, the impact of such heavy rainfall. Farmers love rainfall. 100%, but we're not expecting so much rainfall as we saw from Amos. Talk to me a little bit about the impact that such heavy rainfall had on the different commodities and how it influenced the planning of farmers.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. So it's quite ironic that after a few years of severe drought, we've come into a normalized rainfall period, and then suddenly we had this event in this planting season. So what that's done is it's thrown a lot of it into disarray because farmers couldn't get into fields. The planting season itself was affected by geographic reasons. So the rain as such is not bad. I mean, we always need rain, like you said, but the problem was when it gets too much, you can't get into your fields. It's literally impossible to get into fields. So you find in a lot of areas, farmers planted a lot later than they normally would. And in certain areas on the extreme side, we've had farmers that had to switch crops. So whereas you would have planted maize and completed your planting by a certain date, that dragging on has unfortunately led to them having to switch commodities. Maize to sunflower, for example. That does better in the later planting season as opposed to maize. So we've seen that in commodities. We can't plan for these events, but what we need to do is have the plan B always. So they've done extremely well, our farmers, in being able to switch plantings, and that we think is really gonna keep us going from a food security point of view. So we're not in trouble yet from that point of view. So we don't see any damage as a result of the rain. There are certain areas that are affected, but overall we're not too concerned just yet.
Now, Doctor, can I come to you and please talk to me about what livestock farmers should be on the lookout for, especially in wet seasons?
Thank you, Tony. As you said earlier, though rain is a very good welcomed event for farmers. Unfortunately, it comes with a lot of parasites and a lot of insects that transmit disease to animals. And we live in the tropical region. We have a lot of disease that are transmitted by ticks and mosquitoes and many other pests that we live with. So the farmers have to be very aware of the fact that they need to prevent all this disease and all these pests that could bring a lot of disease that will cause a lot of mortality and destroy the productivity of their livestock.
So preparation is key.
Preparation is extremely key, and I think health programs should be put in place way ahead. It should be a continuous event for a farmer, a livestock farmer. It should be able to have a program that would help them prevent any occurrence of vectors that will transmit diseases.
Now, Louis, how do breeders and also auction houses view weather patterns and how they influence the buying and selling of livestock?
Yes, Tony, I think the influence of weather patterns on the livestock industry is very big. As we know, as livestock farmers, you must first be a grass farmer before you can be a livestock farmer. So with the lots of rains that we had, that's of course good for us because our grazing capacity increases. So that's the positive about it, and that also creates a big demand. And when we have a big demand, then obviously the prices goes up, and that's what we have been seeing for the last 3 years after the drought. But as as Dr. Dungu said, one of the biggest challenges we also face when we are going into wet seasons is the parasites and the diseases that comes together with the rain. And we've already seen lots of lumpy skin disease and stuff like that. And something like Rift Valley fever is always a big scare for us when it's in the wet season. So that's having a very big impact and can lead to livestock losses. And I mean livestock losses, especially in communal areas where the health management plans is not always up to date, can be very severe and can cause a lower demand in cattle.
So, Nico, listening to what the other gentleman is saying, how does a farmer adjust their projections mid-season? And obviously that will affect their cash flow.
Yes, definitely. As Praveen said, when an event like this occurs, you need to adapt, you need to change quickly, and that obviously will have an impact on your cash flow. I think what is important is that the plan B that you refer to is communicated to the stakeholders, specifically the financiers. It is common practice that most of the inputs of farmers is being financed via either the banks or then other institutions such as the co-ops. And you need to keep them abreast of your change in plans. Fortunately, the saying goes, wet damage is always better than dry damage. So you can make more plans in a wet year than what you can do in a dry year from a crop cultivation perspective. So there are alternatives that you can do, but as I say, then on an early stage already, when you start changing your plans, make sure that you inform the banks or your financiers of the changing plans. Many times there are terms and conditions pertaining to the finance that was granted that you are allowed to cultivate a certain crop, and there's certain costs involved or attributed to that specific crop. And when you change crops, then there's a different cost structure that comes into play that might change the finance needs. So you need to be sure that the finance guys are also aware that they can change their plans accordingly. Something that will happen, and again, the example that Praveen used, if you change from maize to sunflower, for instance, the time of harvest will also change. So the way that your cash will come in will also change, and you need to make everybody aware of that.
Jens, let me get a quick comment from you just before we close this. And Louis, you spoke about a livestock farmer being a grass farmer first.
Yes, I think take advantage of the wet seasons, improve your livestock capacity, but be ready for drought with good management.
So, Doc, what's your last word to a budding livestock farmer out there?
I would say to have a very effective health program, prevention and planning are very critical. Vaccination programs should be in place irrespective of the weather season.
So, Nico, if I heard you correctly, communication is key for you.
Yes, I think don't keep the change in plans that you have for yourself. Make sure you take your stakeholders on that change journey.
So, Praveen, your advice to a farmer out there?
Yeah, keep a close eye on the market, take advantage of price spikes, and hedge as much as you can, as quickly as you can.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on African Farming.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mzansi, I can't wait to meet more farmers as our African farming journey continues. So be sure to join us again next week. And please don't forget that you can catch us on #AfricanFarming and also visit our website, africanfarming.com. Mzansi, remember that we farm better together.